Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is talented on the guitar, there's no doubt about that, but his political instincts leave much to be desired. It's almost like his rendition of Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World, performed at a bar in Kiev, Ukraine, was part of a satire skit. I mean, honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. Blinken had just made this announcement before scooting off to the bar to rock out about freedom and democracy. Watch.
We're working with the government and civil society groups to shore up Ukraine's election infrastructure. That way, as soon as Ukrainians agree the conditions allow, all Ukrainians, including those displaced by Russia's aggression, can exercise their right to vote. People in Ukraine and around the world can have confidence that the voting process is free, fair, secure.
So how long is that going to take, Tony? A year? 2 years? 10? Will Ukrainians ever be allowed to kick Zelensky out of office if they want to? Americans still voted and held a presidential election right smack in the middle of a nasty civil war on our own soil, so it can be done. And isn't this what many Ukrainians are complaining about right now as men try and dodge their forced conscription to fight in a pointless war? That American meddling gave them a leader who they now see as being almost no different than Vladimir Putin. When he's not canceling elections, he's locking up political dissidents, including an American citizen who died behind bars like Navalny did in Russia. And he's closing down churches. And he's doing it on our dime, in the name of democracy and freedom. And where do the other dimes we send them go? Into the pockets of corrupt oligarchs who are sending the patriotic young men to go die on the front lines and to leave the country behind for them. We've long known that many millions and even billions of dollars in foreign aid and military assistance that were given to Ukraine is being siphoned off by ne'er-do-wells. That really hits home now that the commander of a Ukrainian Special Reconnaissance Unit, who helped to successfully repel Russian troops from Kharkiv back in 2022, now says that Russian troops were essentially allowed to waltz straight into the area because none of the fortifications that the West has been paying for appear really to have been built or installed or even manned. Joining us now to discuss all this and more is military defense attorney Davis Younts. Davis, thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening.
Great. So you're a military guy. Hearing about how Kharkiv was left largely defenseless despite all the money we've been giving to Ukraine, what does that tell you?
Well, I think we have to start analyzing this from the position that our own Department of Defense, Biden's Pentagon, cannot pass an audit to begin with. If you look at the most recent audit that was done in December of 2023, when the report came out, there was $1.6 trillion that was unaccounted for. That's taxpayer money. So we shouldn't be surprised with this administration and with this Pentagon that billions of dollars are going to a foreign nation and there is no accountability. There is no follow-up. There is no one that is responsible to see that these taxpayer funds are actually used for military defense and for these fortifications. So absolutely, what we are hearing now, the information that we have seems to indicate that although there was a huge Russian buildup, as many as 500,000 troops on the northern border of Ukraine getting ready to invade, there was no effort made on the part of the Ukrainians to stop them from coming into that crucial city on that front of the war. So we shouldn't be surprised at this at all when we look at our own Pentagon, the corrupt nature of it, and just simply poor leadership and lack of accountability that's there.
You know, I'm no Zelensky fan, obviously, but I will say one thing he's been doing these last couple of months is firing left and right so many of the upper echelon in his administration and the military over corruption. Now, who knows if he's just weaponizing that? Maybe he's keeping the corrupt people in place and then the good people he doesn't like, he's calling them corrupt and giving them the boot. Either way, the point I'm just trying to make here is just the corruption is so rife, and that makes a lot of people angry, especially, I could only imagine, those who are still living in Ukraine right now and having to deal with this as it's just their daily normal, unfortunately. And so a lot of them would like to see some elections, but we heard from our own Secretary of State saying until everyone comes home that there won't be elections. But I think the people living there currently, I think that they would like to make their voices heard, especially right now where they are in the war. And if they'd like to change course, I think that that is the free and democratic process at play. But again, Blinken says no, Zelensky says no.